Hello folks, sorry for the poor quality, but you know how it is. I'm trying to work out how to use my computer to do it. Anyway, in the meantime, we're going to look at this. So it's the diverse list of those that can't be mentioned unless it's becoming part of the new administration. So the date 20th of January 2021, and it's by the Jewish Times of Israel, or the JTA, whatever the JTA is. So from Secretary of State to Attorney General, a diverse cross-section of American Jewry is set to fill seats at the incoming president's cabinet table and elsewhere in government. And this is less than 2% of the population. US President Joe Biden filled the months before inauguration date lining up the state cabinet secretaries, assistants and advisors, many of them Jewish. Biden's choices reflect a diverse cross-section of American Jewry and possess expertise gleaned from decades of experience in government. Oh well, you can glean from that what you will. From science and medicine and law. Here's a rundown of the Jewish names you should know as the Biden administration begins. Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State. Blinken, a long-time Biden advisor with an extensive diplomacy resume, is the stepson of a Holocaust survivor whose stories shaped his worldview and subsequently his policy decisions, including the Middle East. So the thing that never happened is now shaping the world's, well, the Secretary of State of the United States is his worldview is being shaped and subsequently his policy decisions. So he holds mainstream democratic views about Israel. I don't know what mainstream democratic views are about Israel, but I thought Democrats were on the left, and I thought that the far left really don't like Israel because of all the babies they kill and all the stuff that they do. And said during his confirmation hearing Tuesday that he wants the US to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal, and he would consult with Israel on Iran policy. So I'm sure he's doing it not for the shekels. Next up, David Cohen, CIA Deputy Director. Cohen, who has long been involved in Jewish causes and issues, will occupy the job he held under President Barack Obama. He does not require confirmation, meaning that Biden's CIA has a top expert in Iran issues from day one. Seems to be doing a lot of concentrating on Iran. It's full of Jewish billionaires, by the way. Merrick Garland, Attorney General. Garland was blocked from joining the Supreme Court. Oh, and just quickly on the Iranian thing, President Macron of France, he's a total Zionist. I'm sure everyone can agree on that. Well, he's best friends with the guy who is in charge of Iran, like they're best buddies. So this whole Iran thing, it's all a fallacy. It's all a setup. It's to create what they couldn't manage with the North Korea shadow, like the weak little country of 22 million was supposed to be bossing around Russia, Israel, America, Great Britain. Well, they had a nuke on Beijing, so they had some leverage. Merrick Garland, Attorney General. Garland was blocked from joining the Supreme Court in the last year of the Obama administration. Now he will require Senate confirmation to become the country's top lawyer. In his speech after being nominated, he credited his grandparents who fled anti-Semitism in Europe before coming to the US. What a trooper. Avril Haines, Director of National Intelligence. Haines was a deputy director of the CIA until Obama and Biden reportedly considered her to run that agency. Her mother was the Jewish painter Adrian Rappin, originally Rappaport, and her non-Jewish father once wrote in an account about a trip with Haines to Israel that the nominee identifies as Jewish. Just put on your 3D glasses now. Time. Ronald Klain, Chief of Staff. Klain, a longtime Biden aide who was the president-elect's first major appointment in November, was previously Chief of Staff to Biden in his Vice President days and to Vice President Al Gore. Remember him? He has maintained ties with his childhood synagogue in Indianapolis, where he famously learned multiple Torah portions for his bar mitzvah, and has spoken about his commitment to raising Jewish children, which no doubt he's going to be trying to do that with the American citizenry. Eric Lander, the Office of Science and Technology Policy Director. Lander, a leading geneticist, will require Senate confirmation after Biden elevated his position to the cabinet level after he was criticized for toasting James Watson, the scientist who is credited with discovering the shape of DNA and who also expressed racist and sexist views. In other words, he probably told the truth about what DNA is. Lander said he too had been the subject of anti-Semitic comments by Watson. Well, he raised a glass to him, so, you know, it really is a passable bigotry. Oh, here he is. Tom Levine, Deputy Health Secretary. He looks in good shape, doesn't he, to be telling people about health. Levine, raised in a conservative Jewish home in Massachusetts, is Pennsylvania's health secretary. He is the first known transgender. He's a man. He's not transgender anything. He's a bloke. So move swiftly on there. Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security. He's 60, the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, was born in Cuba to a Cuban Jewish father and a Romanian Jewish mother, who survived the Holocaust. Wow, didn't she do well? I mean, is anyone counting? He has worked closely with Jewish groups and spoken often about the specific threats facing American Jews. Specific? How? An array of Jewish groups sought a swift confirmation given the threat of extremist violence surrounding the presidential transition, but a Republican senator who supported overturning the election results blocked that possibility on Tuesday. So as I say, this was posted back in January 20th. But the only arrest that I saw made at the White House was a rabbi, and you can check that out. Rabbi arrested for White House riots. Anne Neuberger. Oh, there's a name. Neuberger was, or is, Lord Neuberger, and he was the president of the Supreme Court, which became the highest court in the land, changing it from the House of Lords, which was changed. If you remember, they changed the laws to accommodate for the Rothschilds. So this Neuberger, oh, and that Neuberger, sorry, his name's Jack Neuberger. He's now hiding in Hong Kong with Leon Hoffman, and Lord Sumption. So they don't want to come back to England because they had the spotlight on what they're up to. So she's the NSA Cybersecurity Director. So everything that goes on the internet will come through those cold eyes. So she was an Orthodox Jew from Brooklyn and educated through college in Orthodox schools. Neuberger has worked for the at the NSA for more than a decade. She helped establish US Cyber Command and worked as Chief Risk Officer, where she led the agency's election security efforts for 2018 midterms. Wendy Sherman, Deputy Secretary of State. Sherman was the lead negotiator for the 2013 Iran nuclear deal, which obviously came to zero conclusion. And in the documentary Jews of Iran, they talk to a Jewish billionaire, and he says, well, if we have any problem here, we'll just skip over to Israel. And I'm not seeing any Jews skipping over from from Iran to Israel. Ergo, there's no problem for Jews in Iran, despite all of this Jewish media rhetoric. Admittedly, we are reading the Times of Israel, but nonetheless, it's the same. If you want to see what the news is tomorrow, go and look at the Times of Israel today or the Jerusalem Post, because these are the movers and shakers behind the shadowy corridors of power. Wendy Sherman, Deputy Secretary of State. Sherman was the lead negotiator for the 2015 Iran nuclear deal and took the lead in advocating for the agreement with the Jewish and pro-Israel communities, later describing tensions with Israel and some American Jewish groups over the deal as very, very painful. Oh, it was another shower. She has also played a role in hewing the Democratic Party platform to traditional pro-Israel lines. Janet Yellen, the Yenta, Treasury Secretary. Yellen already made history as the first woman chair of the Federal Reserve, but now she has been appointed to the first female Treasury Secretary. Bear in mind, she comes from a long line of Jews: Geithner, Bernanke, Greenspan, and they're just off the top of my head. The respected centrist was one of 3 Jews featured in a 2016 Trump attack ad that reflected long-standing anti-Semitic tropes. What you mean, like they're all cold-blooded killers and that's all they're hell-bent on that? So I think that's that. Oh, only them 36. I guess there'll be more to be made. Anyway, that's it now, folks. Take care.